Guess who's back? Back again. Sean is back. Tell a friend. No, seriously, tell people about this channel because it probably hasn't grown a whole lot. We're only 30 chapters in, and the more people you tell, the better it's going to be for all of us. For all of us. My production will get better. I'll have more free time, more restful sleep, and the overall quality of the channel will flourish. The last place we left off was Genesis chapter 30. We're now on chapter 31. 30 was all about Jacob's flocks increasing. I guess his flocks weren't enough for him and his family and his loved ones. It's probably just for him, honestly. But this chapter, chapter 31, starts with Jacob flees from Laban. A little bit of family drama going on. Laban is his uncle, if I have not forgotten. I think this is another recording batch, so there has been a little gap of time since the last time I made videos. But why would Jacob be fleeing from Laban? Does Laban still consider himself a Dr. Seuss character? Let's find out, shall we? Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob has taken everything our father owned and gained all his wealth from what belonged to our father." Is that what happened in chapter 30? I've edited most videos on this channel. At this point, they're like all done and it's ready to be launched. But I haven't edited chapters 27 through 30 yet. And that means my memory is a little bit hazy going into this one. Sounds like at the very least, Laban's sons are not happy. Oh, it was the sheep thing. He took the speckled sheeps and the spotted sheeps. And so now his sons are saying, well, he's, I guess, robbed our father in a sense, or manipulated him out of wealth that he could have had. He gained it from our father and he hasn't given anything back. Yeah, it did say Jacob was keeping the fat sheep for himself and sending all the small ones back to Laban. Jacob's really just had zero going for him since he was introduced in the Bible. He's just been a bad person the entire time. Kind of a slimy, cowardly character. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude towards him was not what it had been. All right, so at least he's picked up on it. Let's see if God gets him out of this one. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Go back to the land of your fathers and your relatives, and I will be with you." All right, so God supports sheep hoarding, thinning out the fat ones for himself. So Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah. Oh, right, his mom was Rebecca. I was confused there for a second, thought it was Rachel. Rachel and Leah are the two sisters that were fighting over him, his cousins. I'm never going to stop pointing it out. Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah to come out to the fields where his flocks were. He said to them, "I see that your father's attitude towards me is not what it was before." Oh yeah, it's Laban's daughters. He's married to his daughters. This is what family strife. So dramatic. "I see that your father's attitude toward me is not what it used to be before. But the God of my father has been with me. You know I've worked for your father with all my strength." Yeah, did he? Laban's the one that he got the daughters from. He had to work for them for 7 years each, after he accidentally married Leah. "Yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. Whoa, plot twist. I don't remember his wages ever being changes. They didn't think that was important to write down in this book of religious history. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. Thanks, God. Got your back, Jacob. If he said, 'The speckled ones will be your wages.'" Ah, that's right. He was being paid in the sheep that he took. The sheep was the payment. I guess they didn't have standardized currency. No, we've talked about shekels before. They had shekels. Why is he paying in sheep? "If he said, 'The speckled ones will be your wages,' then all the flocks gave birth to speckled young. And if he said, 'The streaked ones will be your wages,' then all the flocks bore streaked young. So God has taken away your father's livestock and has given them to me." That's an interesting interpretation. He's saying that by divine intervention, God was changing the types of sheep that were being born for Jacob's wages, for his income, his paycheck. "In breeding season, I once had a dream in which I looked up and saw that the male goats mating with the flock were streaked, speckled, or spotted. The angel of God said to me in the dream, 'Jacob.' Jacob. I answered, 'Here I am.'" Their favorite thing to say. It's not even that funny anymore. I used to laugh at that because they would say it in the weirdest contexts, but I've read it so many times now that it's lost its muster. "And he said, 'Look up and see that all the male goats mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, or spotted.'" There we go with the repetition again. "For I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now leave this land at once and go back to your native land." So Jacob is just, how do they know whenever it's God in the dream and not just a normal dream? It still happens today. There's people all over the world that are like, "God came to me in a dream and told me to do this thing." It's the same thing that happened in the Bible. We believe this story. well, we. And that God is selectively breeding sheep for Jacob. But apparently he's told him to go back to his native land. I can't remember the name of it, wherever that is. Then Rachel and Leah replied, "Do we still have any share in the inheritance of our father's estate? Does he not regard us as foreigners?" Oh yeah, they use this negative type of question asking. Does he not regard us as foreigners? Meaning like he does, doesn't he? Does he not? Tell me if he doesn't. Because we think he does. That's what they're saying. We think he does. Does he not? Does he not regard us as foreigners? Not only has he sold us, true, but he has used up what was paid for us. Okay, you know what? People are piecing things together in ways that they normally don't. I still think this is all a very weird relationship, but at least they're doing a little bit of critical analysis here. Surely all the wealth that God took away from our father belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has told you. Man, this is the kind of story I've seen in real life a lot. People just kind of turn it against their own families because it's what God wants. But in this case, we're taking it at face value and we're just trusting that Jacob actually is hearing from God and he's not just saying he saw these things in a dream and using them to justify his actions. That's not something people would do with religion, right? Then Jacob put his children and his wives on camels. Yeah, love it when the camels come in. And he drove all of his livestock ahead of him, along with all the goods he had accumulated in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Oh, he's going back to Isaac after stealing the birthright? Not the birthright, after stealing the blessing. His blind father that he manipulated by wearing sheepskin. That was one of my favorite stories. I loved doing that video. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, ironic, Rachel stole her father's household gods. What? What does that mean? Who knows what that means? When Laban had so Laban steps out to shear his sheep. That's when you take the little trimmers like from the Grinch and you go and you shave off all the wool, the hair, the fur, the hair, the wool. It's not wool until it's refined, is it? When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household gods. What does that mean? I don't think it explains. Let's read the next couple sentences. Moreover, Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean. Oh yeah, by the way, just to correct this, in an earlier video I called it Aramean, and then I asked if they spoke Aramaic, and so it must not be pronounced Aramean, it has to be Aramaean, and I just sound really dumb in that old video. I'm just saying that now. That is me actually just wanting to protect how dumb I looked in that earlier video. I went back and watched it, and I realized it after the recording was over. Moreover, Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean by not, why don't they call him Laban from Haran? That was his Dr. Seuss name. Laban the Aramean by not telling him he was running away. So, okay, so the Bible is saying Jacob was intentionally deceitful. So he fled with all he had, crossed the Euphrates River, and headed for the hill country of Gilead. Is that their native land? I thought they said they were going back to their native land. Now leave this land at once and go back to your native land. That was verse 13. But he's going to Gilead, apparently. And it does not expand on Rachel stealing her father's household gods. Maybe that's like a physical ornament, like some little tribute or something to the gods he believes in. We know that he might not have, or the people of his land weren't only praising the God of, that's why they always say why do I misspeak like that sometimes? That's why they say the God of Isaac and Abraham. That's why. Isaac, what am I saying? Isaac and Abraham. The God of Isaac and Abraham. That's not a hard sentence to say. My brain is trying to, I guess, think and speak at the same time. I had too many beers yesterday. I record these a lot on Saturday, which means if I go out on a Friday, I have to be really careful because I want to be in good condition for this. And I do feel good today, but I had 6 beers. And it was a mix of like normal lagers, which are not that strong, and then craft beer, which is definitely strong. And my tummy didn't feel good in the morning. I had to take a ginger shot, drink a bunch of water. But I'm feeling okay now. I also had Japanese curry for lunch, so I'm all buffed up. It's like the stew that Isaac made for his brother Esau before taking his birthright. So we're not going to expand on the household gods. The next section is called Laban Pursues Jacob. So that sounds pretty straightforward. We're still in chapter 31, but Laban is going to chase Jacob, I guess, to Gilead. On the 3rd day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he went 72 hours without hearing. I think he said, I'll live 3 days walk, or three days journey away from you. So he found out after 3 days, maybe there was like a messenger who ran 3 days all the way back to Laban just to tell him. Taking his relatives with him, he pursued Jacob for 7 days and caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. Okay, that didn't take long. Then God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream. Is it a different Laban? They're just calling him Laban the Aramean now, not Laban from Haran. It has to be the same one. It's his daughters. Laban the Aramean. Then God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream at night and said to him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." That's a pretty cryptic message to get in a dream. Be careful don't say anything to him. Don't say anything good or bad. Whatever it is. Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill. What does that mean? Be careful not to say anything good or bad? Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country of Gilead when Laban overtook him. And Laban and his relatives camped there too. Then Laban said to Jacob, this is exactly what God just said not to do in the dream. Maybe Laban's thinking, I'll just say something neutral. It won't be good, it won't be bad, it'll just be right in the middle, and those are the things I can say. I can just say things that don't have a slant one way or another. What have you done? You deceived me, and you've carried off my daughters like captives in a war. Okay, not very neutral. That was not a very neutral message he had for Jacob. Why did you run off secretly and deceive me? He did do that. Why didn't you tell me, so I could send you away with joy and singing to the music of timbrels and harps? That would have been a good send-off. I mean, I think the reason is Jacob doesn't trust him. Jacob said he stole his wealth or squandered his wealth. He's just not very good with financial management. I don't think they had Dave Ramsey back in the day. They didn't have financial courses or Udemy, Coursera to help them get through life. Not that those websites have ever helped anyone. You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye. Man, he's coming down hard. But I mean, I'd be upset if someone just ran away with my daughters as well. I'm not ever going to have daughters, but I'd be upset if I did, and this happened. You have done a foolish thing. I have the power to harm you. But last night, the God of your father said... Okay, so after everything he said, he's still bringing up the dream. But last night, the God of your father said to me, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Now you have gone off because you long to return to your father's household. But why did you steal my gods? We're still referencing the god stealing. And he knows it happened. He knows his gods were stolen, whatever that means. I guess there's different people praising different gods. But from our Christian perspective here, our God is the only one that's real. Laban just has all of his fake gods, I guess. This is a juicy story. I don't think I've ever heard this one, and I wasn't expecting it to go this way. I think I started trying to read the Bible several times when I was younger, and I always got bored, and I'd stop so around the chapter 20 or 16. This project has already allowed me to learn a lot from the Bible that I didn't know before, and we are barely any of the way through. Jacob answered Laban, I was afraid because I thought you would take your daughters away from me by force. It's his wives, though. Well, okay. I mean, I guess in a certain scenario, I'd find it justifiable to take someone's wife away if they were in like a horrible situation or being abused or something. That doesn't sound like it's the case here. The wives seem to be on Jacob's side. So, but if you find anyone who has your gods, that person shall not live. Whoa! Wait a second. So, wait, did Jacob not know that Rachel took them? What was the last thing that happened? When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household gods. It doesn't say that Jacob knew. So, oof, this is another plot twist. This is juicy. But if you find anyone who has your gods, that person shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, Rachel's like that meme of the monkey. It's like, in the presence of our relatives, see for yourself whether there is anything of yours here with me. And if so, take it. Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. We figured that out before we even got here. What's going to happen? I would think they wouldn't just be like, rules the rules. If they find the gods with Rachel, they're like, we got to kill you now. I'm sorry, I said it out loud. It has to happen. So Laban went to Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two female servants. But he found nothing. Oh, Rachel's starting to sweat. After he came out of Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. Oh no, it's coming. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them inside her camel's saddle and was sitting on them. We are getting so much more detail than we usually get. This is an intricate story. Laban searched through everything in the tent but found nothing. So he's looking for the tent and Rachel's just sitting on her camel like, it can't be up here. I'm just up on the camel. Don't look in the saddle. Rachel said to her father, Don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence. I'm having my period. What? What? How have I never heard this story before? She falls back. What? What is... Oh, I need to learn more about female anatomy. I mean, I feel like a lot of guys do. At least I'm not going to put that in the video. Can you not... Could she... Okay, let's work this out. She wouldn't have had today's materials, obviously. No pads, no tampons sitting on this camel. I would think they'd done something to address the period. I wouldn't think that, like, every month women just run around openly bleeding everywhere. It sounds like she's saying, I cannot stand up. Why have I never heard this in church before? I can't stand up in your presence. That's probably why. That's probably why people don't want to talk about that stuff in front of the congregation. Maybe she's just plugged up on the camel. I didn't think it worked that way. I didn't think you had any control over any of it. But it's a good out. It's good thinking from Rachel. I'll say that because, Laban's going to be like, I don't know how that works. He's definitely not going to question it. They'll be like, okay, stay up on your camel. Good idea, Rachel. So he searched but could not find the household gods. Also, why is God, the main God, not upset about any of this? Why is he totally cool with Laban having other gods? I thought you weren't supposed to have that in the Bible. Jacob was angry and took Laban to task. What is my crime? He asked Laban. How have I wronged you that you hunt me down? He did take the fat sheep, and he knows that God was biased towards him. I could see Laban being upset for that. Now that you have searched through all my goods, what have you found that belongs to your household? Put it here in front of your wives and mine, and let them judge between the two of us. This is getting saucy. This is getting spicy. What's going to happen? I have been with you for 20 years now. Your sheep and goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten rams from your flocks. I did feed my dad baby goats, but those weren't yours. I did not bring you animals torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself. Man, we're finding out there's so much tea spilling that's happening right now. And you demanded payment for me, for whatever was stolen by day or night. He did? This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime, and the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. It sounds like this is one of those situations where we were supposed to have more information in a book and maybe got lost in history before the Bible was canonized. How do we not know all this before? It was like this for the 20 years I was in your household. I worked for you for 14 years. And for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages 10 times. I thought he was just exaggerating earlier. I didn't think he literally changed it 10 times. He said that just like a page ago. And now he's saying it to his face. He's saying it directly to Laban. He's letting it all out. It's like he's had this pent up for years, and he's just like, you deserve this. He's just giving him an earful. Like, you don't deserve to talk to me this way. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, you would have surely sent me away empty-handed. So he's admitting that Laban only gave him the daughters because of the fear of God. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands, and last night he rebuked you. Oh no, it's never good to be rebuked by God. That's not what you want from the creator of the universe. You want God on your side because he'll give you all the good sheep, and he'll curse your enemies. He's a good ally to have. Laban answered Jacob. All right, here we go. He's winding up. He's going to have his counterpoint. The women are my daughters, and the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. I like how he doesn't say, like, those are my daughters. He just says, the women. The women are my daughters. The children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. All you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or about the children they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it serve as a witness between us. So he wants to strike a deal. He starts to see that his position is slipping. He thinks Jacob's making some good points. Maybe he shouldn't go against the guy that God is supporting. So, hey, let's strike a deal. That's exactly what Abimelech did a few chapters ago. He's like, hey, don't let there be any strife between us. I don't want to get struck by lightning. And that's a reasonable want, in my opinion. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Yep, that's what they do. I think Jacob specifically did this. He just set up a pillar, and he was like, this is for God now. And then he named like land after it, I think. It might have been Isaac or Abraham, but someone has done this already. Someone in this family line. It's kind of interesting that the way they praise the God of Abraham is the same way like many gods are praised. He's like setting up I mean, it's a pillar, but it's kind of like an altar or a symbol for God. I wonder if it's out in the world somewhere still. Stone does have a lifespan, like it erodes eventually, so this pillar won't last forever. But I think if it's only been a few thousand years, it might still be, a weathered version of it might still exist. I can't remember the lifespan of stone. I think it's like 10 to 20,000 years or something. I'm not sure. He said to his relatives, "Gather up some stones." So they took stones and piled them in a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Is that just like a tradition that people have? Build a pile of stones and then eat there? Laban called it Jagar Sahadutha, and Jacob called it Galeed. So they each gave it a name. Cool. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today." That is why it was called Galeed. It was also called Mizpah, a little bit of Mizpah. Because, he said, "May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives beside my daughters," didn't he already do that? Didn't he already take the slaves? "Even though no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake." Laban also said to Jacob, "Here is this heap, and here is this pillar I have set up between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness. You're a witness, and you're a witness, and you're a witness. You're all witnesses that I will not go past this heap to your side and harm you, and you will not go past this heap and pillar to my side to harm me." So they got to draw a line in the sand. Two boys can't keep their hands off each other. "May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor and the God of their father judge between us." So Jacob took an oath in the name of the fear of his father Isaac. I don't know what that means either. He mentioned that for the first time in this chapter, the fear of Isaac. What does Isaac fear? Is God his fear? Is it metaphorical? He offered a sacrifice there in the hill country and invited his relatives to a meal. After they had eaten, they spent the night there. Early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. All right, well, I really thought, the top was going to blow off on this whole situation, but it actually all resolved. They figured out how to play nice, how to come to an agreement, and everything was fine. The next chapter is called Jacob Prepares to Meet Esau. So it's about to get spicy again. Tune in 2 days for the next episode. That's when that one will come out. There will be a short tomorrow on the recap of this chapter. But the next one is chapter 22. Jacob prepares to meet Esau. Let's see how that brotherly showdown goes.